All right. Uh, I would like to welcome Amelia Breton, and I've known you for 7, 8 years, I guess. How long has it been?
It has been 10 years in November.
10 years. That's right. We
Yeah,
did the boot camp together
yes, we did.
out in Cali. I remember that, right? Amelia is an incredible human being, along with being a transformational leader, agile coach, and systems thinker. With over 2 decades of experience helping organizations navigate complexity with clarity, creativity, and joy. She's led large-scale transformations across healthcare, finance, technology, global enterprises, and is currently a director at HCLTech, where she blends organizational design, leadership development, and playful experimentation to build resilient and high-performing teams. She specializes in covering the hidden relationship systems and how that shapes work and how work truly happens. She's going to talk to us tonight about the joyful system, how play reveals the invisible forces shaping your work. And welcome, Emilia. I'm going to be quiet now.
All right. Welcome, everyone. So I want you to take a second and think of a system that you are a part of. And when I say system, I don't mean a computer system. I don't mean um, anything having to do with technology at all. I mean that network that is a group of humans. It might be a family, might be a company, might be a team. And I want you to think a little bit about what it means when that system is joyful. So, what is a joyful system to you? Put it out there. And by the way, I ask people a lot of things. So, if you're a sit back, be quiet, and be mute, that's okay too. But hopefully, we have a few people that want to play. Playfulness. Yes. What else?
See actual smiles rather than Duchenne smiles, like a real smiles and laughter.
Uh,
Yep.
Humor, fun, smiles.
Actually, yeah. Good to see you. Real good to see you. Building what Ken said.
Yeah.
And it's good to see you, Andrew.
Good to see you, Ken. Thanks for inviting me.
For me, a joyful system that I get to experience almost every day is, my children and my family. They come home and they're like excited. Or even days they're not, at least the dog is. So there's always some joy, right? Um, but that can exist in your work too. And I've had the pleasure of being a member of a number of joyful systems at work, um, where people really, truly like and care about each other. And that is one of the things that I love to help build is that truly joyful system. And that's what I want to talk about today. So we can tell some stories. We're going to play a little together. We're going to make some sense. And hopefully you'll come away with one small next step. That's the goal. All right, let me tell you a little bit about Amelia, about me. Um, so currently I am a lead in the operating model transformation practice at HCLTech. And what that means is we come in and set up how a company works. Um, Lots of business agility type stuff for the agile folks, enabling AI, but really it's all about looking at the whole system of an organization and figuring out where the pain in that system is and what we can do about it and how can we make it wonderful. Um, I've been doing this work for almost 25 years now. Um, and I find great joy in it. I see it more of a calling than a job. Things I like to do outside of work. I am one of the co-leads for the Launching New Voices program with Women in Agile. So if you are a woman or an advocate or know one who would like to break into speaking, please reach out and we can work something. we have a number of opportunities for folks. And for those of you that are experienced speakers, we are always looking for new mentors for our proteges. So a little bit of a pitch for a volunteer job along with the real ones as well. I am also the author of The Joyful System, which is a book that I have been writing since 2020 when all of my friends wrote books. But I had a kindergartner, so I didn't write a book in 2020. And the download is I help people stop fixing symptoms and start seeing the whole system. All right. So most teams, they don't struggle because the people aren't trying hard enough. Nobody shows up to work and says, I think I'll be kind of mediocre today. Or, today I am going to make the biggest mess I can. No, we're humans. We want to do well. We struggle because the system that is around us is quietly shaping the behavior, the decisions, and the outcomes that we have. And often we don't see or sense that system. So that's what today is really all about, is looking at some real practical techniques to help visualize what that system is and how it's impacting us, and then what to do about it. Can anyone tell me about a system you've been a part of that maybe had some pain, or some of the things that got in your way?
I'll call out one of a lack of shared understanding between business and technology.
Yeah, that's really common. Sometimes we don't speak the same language. Sometimes we don't even speak.
Poor commitments because we don't speak,
Yeah.
which kind of creates a lot of struggle later.
For those of you that work with teams, which is probably a good chunk of you, what do you usually try and fix when you see these teams struggling and these things happening in your system?
I'm thinking today about an interaction that I had with a brand new team that I was working with, where they had a challenge or problem that leadership really were the only ones that could solve, but they didn't want to bring it up because of perception. So what I'm thinking about is, how do I create safety so they feel comfortable with having it brought up?
Yeah.
Sometimes the processes, we fix the processes. So it's a
Yeah.
surface work.
Yes. So the organization I'm working with today, when we came in and we asked them, so what is the biggest problem that you are facing? I said, we just need to get better at estimating. Our problem is that we never deliver on time. So we just have to get better at estimating when we can deliver. Symptom, but it's not the system, right? And when you take a holistic view of that system, you start revealing all of these little pieces. Oh, we have too much WIP. Oh, we have nobody talks to UX ahead of time. We're just throwing stuff off over the hill to testing. And all of these little tiny decisions, little pieces of the system add up. And it can look like a really simple problem that we can fix, because we're not looking at the whole picture and the whole system. We're only looking at the symptoms and where the pain is. All right. So a little bit our journey today. So noticing the symptom, I think we all do that pretty well in our work. But then some ways that you can start revealing the system to itself. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if I see the problem or I see what the system looks like. It's can the people who are a part of that system really see what it's like, what's going on. Because at the end of the day, those of us who are consultants, we walk out of the picture. Even if you're internal, maybe you're not with that team. You're doing something else. You can't be in every room all of the time. So we need to help other people see these systems. Make some meaning out of our systems. Then we're going to choose one small action so that we can start that shift. Because there's no big bangs, there's no magic bullets, there are no magic wands. Did anybody come here looking for a magic wand? Because I have a magic wand. Unfortunately, it doesn't do anything when I'm talking to systems. So you can have a magic wand, but it's not very effective at the end of the day. Right. So what I'm going to need you to do is bring your curiosity. Leave any blame at the door. And then the yarn is here to help. We're going to use some virtual yarn today because we're remote, but you can do this with one person, a group, in person, remote. It's a really nice tool. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about why these things happen. Symptoms are really loud. You can see them easily. They sort of reach out and hit you. But the systems behind it are a little bit quieter and a little bit harder to notice. So some of the loud symptoms that I hear a lot with people, feel burned out. Just kind of blah. We've got missed handoffs, right? I throw the thing over the fence to you and you didn't catch it. And that's when some of the blame game starts happening. Whose fault is it? Right? Everything is an emergency. We need to do it all and we need to do it right now. Anybody experience that on a daily basis? Yeah. All of it right now. And the people problems, right? Well, so-and-so just doesn't get along with XYZ. Or, well, they're just grumpy. They don't understand my role. Well, if they would just. These are the things, they're loud, they're obvious. We see them, we feel the pain. But the underlying things that are part of the system are a lot harder. I don't know what I'm in charge of doing. Can I say yes to that? Or I cannot, somebody else makes a decision and doesn't tell me, and I thought I was supposed to be a part of it. Why are they ignoring me? People stop giving each other feedback. Someone or more people are doing all the invisible labor. And then finally, what are the voices that aren't in the room that should be? Frederick. Talk to me, my friend.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
How about not having access to the needed flow of information
Yeah.
to do the work?
Not just missing voices, like you're not even in the room. Missing people. Feeling like you're on your back foot all the time. Miriam.
Be also the ghost, right? Like maybe it's a former leader who's no longer there, but their way of doing things are still impacting the team or teams.
Yeah. Nobody knows why they did it. And sometimes it's a positive ghost and sometimes it's a negative ghost, right? Anybody found or encountered a hugely convoluted, deep system where of approvals that's like left over from some pain that somebody else created years ago, and nobody even remembers what happened or why we do this, but we just do this process over and over and over again. Like you're stuck on a merry-go-round. Yeah. One of the big points I like to make, yes, the zombie process, Ken. If something keeps happening, if you see the same thing happening over and over again, it's probably not random. It's probably not coincidence. There is something in your system that is causing it. There is a reason why it keeps happening. Okay. Well, the systems that are between us are real, right? They have personalities. They change. And it's not just the people. It's not just the processes we're a part of. It's this living, breathing thing that exists with its own wants and its own need. A relationship isn't just the sum of all of the people that are in it. It has habits. It has memories like our ghosts. There's tone, there's tension, there's momentum. And they amplify the wonderful things and the not so wonderful things. And this applies whether it is a work system or a family system. We all bring the pieces in. And the same group of humans in a different environment becomes a totally different system. You see this like if you're working with a family business a lot, right? The family system and the work system are very different, even though made up of the same humans. And though both systems affect each other, they are distinct systems with their own wants and their own needs. And that's a little bit of what we're going to discover today is that system. The pieces and how they interact together, and then what we can do about them and how we work with them. All right. So what makes a system joyful? We talked a little bit about that in the icebreaker, right? What we feel and joy, the humor, the laughs, the smiles. A joyful system is not perfect. In fact, if it's perfect, it's probably not really joyful. It's not conflict-free. In fact, if it's totally conflict-free, that's probably a signal that people aren't saying the real stuff sometimes. And it's not the everybody smiles at all hands. Everybody seems nice. It's when it gets real, right? It is visibility. Everybody sees what is happening. Everybody knows what's going on in their system and collaborates together. We learn together. We give feedback, right? Feedback is seen as a gift, not as pointing fingers or blame. People are safe. You can say the hard things and be truthful, right? You can tell your friend they have spinach in their teeth. You can give feedback freely. A former system I was in was really good about this, right? We could walk up to each other and say, so I want to give you some feedback about that training you just did. When you did XYZ, I noticed ABC. And it would be great if you could, right? And we didn't take it as pointing fingers. We didn't take it as, oh my gosh, I messed that up so bad. I can't believe that I did that. I'm a terrible trainer. What am I ever going to do? No, we took it as a gift, right? You take it, you'd say thank you, and then you get to decide what you do with it later. But it was an opportunity for us to learn and grow. And then finally, the system is adaptable. Like a truly joyful system can roll with it. You don't have to burn out. Even when things are hard or long or change is difficult, when you've infused this joy into your system, you can survive anything. I was a part of a training team in 2020 that was a truly joyful system, right? We had our entire business model, everything the team did was completely disrupted in a weekend, right? We went from knowing how we do this, we carry around Legos, we get on planes, we fly to places, we get humans together, we throw balls at each other, we build things with spaghetti, we build things with Lego, we come out, everybody's happy and it's fun. And that was how we worked. And then in a weekend, the world shut down. And we had to figure out how to do our jobs now how to do all of this, we had to rewrite every piece of curriculum that we had in like 2 weeks because we'd already sold it. There were already humans that were expecting to be trained. And we did it, even though there were long hours, because we truly appreciated each other as human beings and we were joyful and it was fun. I think we slept a collective of like 2 or 3 hours a night during that time. And none of us burned out because we shared that joy. Frederick.
Hi there. I missed the beginning, so I'm a bit confused about the use of the term system. Are you referring to the work and the processes we are using to do the work, or are you referring to the solution and flash system we are delivering?
I'm talking about the system that is the human relationships. So it takes into account the people, the process, the tools, how we interact with each other, all of it. That is the system. You could think of it as system in the sense of like an ecosystem. We are all reliant on all of the pieces coming together, and they can be different wherever you are. But for today, we're going to look a lot at the human system. And that's what the game we're going to play really examines, is how all of the humans work together and what that system looks like. All right. Why do we play? Why do we care about doing this in a fun way? Well, play isn't just something that we do for joy. Play creates this really interesting, safe place where people are willing to say things that they would not say in a normal work environment. Even systems that have very low psychological safety can play together. And it lets people sort of experiment and sense and try things out, but the stakes aren't exactly the same, right? I was working with a team. We were an engineering team, CTO, and the CEO were in the room. Nobody would ever give feedback to the CEO that he was a micromanager. But we played a game. Very simple.
Flew up and yeah, in the candy aisle. Oh, it's everywhere. I threw up in, not on the floor. I threw up in the shelves.
All right. And now we get to experience a Zoom bomber who are less than joyful.
Sorry for that.
It's okay. You get your 11 now, Ken.
We got the bouncers here. That's why we bring the bouncers in. So thanks for bouncing them.
Thank you. All right. Sorry. So nobody's going to tell the CEO he's a micromanager. There's not that kind of psychological safety for the guy who holds all of our jobs in his hands. We're playing a game. Pretty simple game. You have this device. It's got lots of strings. And your goal is to draw a thing together, right? This team is trying to draw. And the CEO, his safe place is to tell people what to do. And he's shouting orders and telling people and all of this. And one of the more junior engineers says, dude, shush, just let us go. And he was like, really taken aback. But he did. And they were able to complete the thing together. And that revealed a pattern, not just to everybody, but to that CEO. And he was like, oh. And we had some coaching afterwards. And it's like, so how does that feel like real life? And it made like this thing really hit home for him that he's like, do I do that? I think I do that. Maybe I should not do that. But he had never seen himself as a micromanager. His view of himself as a leader was he was helping. But nobody's going to tell him in the real world to shush and let me do my thing. There's not that safety. But in game, there's that safety. So it lets people really feel that system, not just hear about it. I can give you a lecture on why high whip limits are bad. Or you can play a game where everything starts falling down. You're going to remember it a lot more if we play a game. And it creates some of these metaphors that really stick even after the game is done. I have a picture of some folks who are playing a Kanban game, right? Look at the joy and the laughter, right? That is the sound of some stuff really becoming visible. We're joking about how this is like work and how things always fall down, right? So this is the game that we're going to be playing together. This is a picture of me doing it with a real executive team. I want you to take a look at the picture and tell me, what do you notice?
Dependencies.
There's definitely some strings going together. People need other people. Take a look at the string. What do you notice about it?
Each of the strings look like they're connected to other people.
They're all connected.
Communication is flowing like transparency.
Yeah. So the directions for this game were pass the string to the person who you talk to the most. And it was passed around the person you talked to the most and went back and forth. And if you were holding the string and got it again, who do you talk to the next most, right? Passing around. So it creates a visual of their communication system. What do you see about their communication system?
It's very just
One guy who's holding a lot of string.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy in the suit jacket has like all of the strings. Look at the lady next to him in the gray sweatshirt.
Some people don't seem to be holding many or any strings.
Yeah, she has no strings. So the guy in the suit jacket is the senior VP in charge of this group. The lady next to him in the sweatshirt is the one who works with the customer every single day. The one with no strings. That was a real moment for this team. And it showed a couple of things. Dan realized that he is a bottleneck. Because to get anything done, you were pretty much going through Dan, dude in the suit jacket. Everybody has to talk to him for everything. They weren't talking to each other nearly as much as they would talk to him to see if it was okay to go talk to him, And he felt burnt out. And they hadn't been meeting the customer's needs. They weren't even talking to the person who talks to the customers every day, much less the customer themselves. So they learned a lot that day from that game. So in just a few minutes, passing the string around, they were able to see their relationship system. The system was there all along, right? These things had been happening for years. But the string was what made it visible. And today, we're going to play with our own virtual ball of string. And we're going to do this on an individual level. So since I assume most of you do not work together and are not a member of the same systems, you're going to pick one real system. Could be a team at work, could be a project team, could be your family, could be a volunteer group, a community that you're a part of. Pick a system that is meaningful to you And you are going to need a pen or pencil, something to write with, and a piece of paper. You can also, when you're setting this up to do this, obviously create a Miro board. But since we don't necessarily all know each other, we want to keep this personal. So go ahead and grab a writing utensil, or pull up on your computer a blank Word doc. And I will, at the end of this, give you directions to running this exercise, both individually on paper. You can actually send it out and have people do it ahead of time. It's got a little worksheet. And then I will also give you access to how do you do this with actual string and actual humans in the room. I will tell you that it is incredibly powerful and fast to do it with strings and humans, but we don't all have the opportunity to do that in the world that we live in today. So just give you a moment to get your utensils and to think of a system. Does everybody got what you need? Anybody need us to wait a little bit longer? Oh yes, Arun, entanglement is so much. All right, if nobody needs another minute, let's go to the first direction. All right, this is super simple. Draw a circle in the middle of your page and write the name of the system. This is just for you. You're not going to have to show it. All right. Step 2. Around the edge of your circle, write the names or roles or symbols, initials, whatever you need to represent the wonderful people that are a part of your system. We'll go around the edge. And when you think you've got everyone in your system, give yourself a gut check and think about whose name you might have missed. All right. All right. Take a moment and draw lines between who talks to who most often. All right. Think about when things get messy, when things get hard, when everything feels like it's on fire. Darken the lines of the people who really start connecting when that happens. All right. Draw a circle around the names of the people who make the decisions. All right, and finally, put a star next to anyone who is affected by the things happening in the system, but doesn't tend to be included. Whose voices do you not hear? Who might not even be on the circle right now? All right. Take a moment. Look at your circle. Just let it speak. Think about, what do you notice first? What might be surprising? What feels familiar? What feels uncomfortable? Maybe take a couple notes on the side for yourself. All right. Would anyone like to share any of their observations?
I can share.
Yeah.
I had family system, and there are a couple of siblings who are definitely impacted by some of the decisions that are being made. So
Yeah. Anyone else notice anything about your systems?
I have a little business that I put up as a way of looking at who was talking to whom. And the thing I discovered was the product owner doesn't really talk to anybody, and that the principal customer acts the way your guy in the suit jacket did.
Hmm.
So all the strings went from that person. And so the delivery time was, shall we say, expanded. Because SQA also did not get a dark and enhanced line, got a very thin, slender line. .
All right. So these questions and this flow kind of go. Oh, Andrew, please.
Yeah, something I'm curious about, and this is just translating the instructions, but I notice your example here. There are lines between everybody, but they're different kind of lines. So I'm thinking about, if we're doing this, how do we interpret the who do you speak to the most versus who do you speak to sometimes, and transcribe that onto the paper?
Yeah. Usually that's sort of the darkest. I will admit that my circle was created by my friend Gemini.
All right. Thank you.
My robot friend did not draw as nice a circle as maybe I would have liked him to. All right.
Well,
So
could I just follow up with
Yeah.
a question about on this illustration? It's clear to me there are different colors and different texture lines, but it's not clear to me what the weighting would be. And it looks as if everybody talks to everybody.
Yeah,
Kind of defeats the purpose you're trying to reach for, I think.
a little bit. That's why I show the actual real string picture. Um, I'll I'll spend some more time with my robot friends. I appreciate the feedback too. This is the first time I've given this talk, so. All right. So the questions that I just asked are from, it's a very simple Thiagi style sense-making flow debrief. When you do this with humans, the things that you're looking for first, what did it feel like? That's that reaction. You're capturing what's happening, particularly if you're doing this in person. There's a lot of real gold there. The next one is like, what did you see? And the reason we get that feeling first is once you come into the reality of seeing, you will have kind of lost that fleeting feeling. So you want to name that first. So notice, what did you see? Next, start making meaning with it. You know, what patterns were revealed? What things did you notice? How is this like real life? Is your next piece, which is the transfer, right? So what about this activity is like real life? When you're doing this with balls of string and you've been throwing it around and there's usually some happiness, some joy, people will start noticing things like, oh, this is like when or the ball will get dropped, right? Oh, that's exactly like when XYZ thing happened. And then finally is moving to action. What is one small shift you will try, right? You don't want to start trying to fix the map. Sometimes you will have teams when you do that they decide to start like, oh, but actually, we talked to Christine that one time when we did the thing, so she should get some string. Real thing that happened with the real team, right? Don't try and fix the map. It's just about learning from it. You can create some working agreements afterwards. So some pattern language that's useful for you, especially when you're debriefing with these people. Bottlenecks. When one person is connected to almost everything. Our friend Dan in the suit jacket in the first picture. Invisible labor. One of the things you couldn't see on the side was the admin, who also had lots and lots of strings and things, because she did a lot of the work that this high-tech executive team didn't really appreciate until seeing how much, talking to the same person to set up your meeting, order the catering, make sure that the flights get booked. All of those things were essential to this team running, and in fact, to their organization running, but nobody noticed that labor. We see this a lot show up with Scrum Masters, right? There is a lot of work that isn't necessarily understood and appreciated. Anyone had anybody tell you, I'm not sure exactly what you do, but it just seems better when you're here. right? That's a lot of that invisible labor. Facilitation, holding the room, sensing that the impediment is going to happen before it does. Missing voices, those people who are affected but might not be included. Decision disconnects. Dan had to make every decision, so everything went through him, made him a bottleneck, but also he sat really far away from the humans who were actually writing the code. Like multiple layers. And then clusters or silos, right? You'll see lots of internal tie. When you do this with really big groups, you'll often see like these three people have strings that go back and forth, but once the ball of yarn gets in that little area, it's not leaving. It's a really good sign. You've got some really strong internal work, which can be great, right? That's a really beautiful place to build a team from. But when you have the weak cross-system ties, it means when things leave that team, dependencies get dropped, handoffs come down, finger pointing starts. So something you just have to design and learn from. So some patterns, bits for you. These are some questions that I love to use with these. Who has to say yes before something can move? Who gets asked for their opinion? And the corollary, never gets asked. What gets rewarded here? This one's really important, and it seems less so than it is sometimes. Because people will work towards what's appreciated. I'm working with a system right now that really, really wants to be outcome focused. They want to hit these really ambitious outcomes. But what do they reward? How many Jira tickets did you close? How many story points did your team do? So do teams pick up like the hard, gnarly, not very well defined things? Or the really, really quick, crunchy potato chip items? What do you think?
Potato chips for the win.
Yeah, because that's what gets rewarded.
Yep.
Where does feedback go to die? That's always a really interesting one. What are the things that keep repeating? I have one client I'm working with. This is their 7th transformation.
I don't suppose you could tell us what they're transforming from to the 6 previous times.
Well, they've been through TQM, they've been through Lean, they've been through Scrum, they've been through Safe, they've been through Scrum at scale, they've been to interesting self-designed water scrum fall process. Those are the ones I know about. But it's not uncommon. I worked for a major bank. They're transferring me to the product operating model because Safe failed, which they did because Scrum failed, which they did because Lean failed. I know they just fired all their product coaches. I'm not sure what the new flavor is. I think it's AI. Because they're searching for one of these. It doesn't work. It's hard work. And then this one's another good one. What conversation happens after the meeting instead of in it? How many times have you all left the meeting and the first thing you have to do is go talk to XYZ to debrief about what happened in that meeting? Because there was a thing you couldn't actually say in the meeting. All things, good questions that like just are really revealing. So I suggest working them into your system maps. So no good game is useful unless it leads to some action. And these are some questions that I like to ask. And I'd also like to give you a minute to think about it for your system, because you should come away with this, with something real and tangible. What is one conversation this map suggests you need to have? Or what's one missing voice that you could include in your system? What's one bottleneck that you might be able to reduce? Can't solve them all, maybe one of them. What is one safe to try experiment for the next 1 to 2 weeks? And go ahead and write that on your piece of paper. All right. Just to sum it up, we don't fix systems, we help them evolve. At the end of the day, what we can make feasible, what can help us ask better questions. When we can ask better questions, we can create the safety for people to tell the truth. And then we can take that last small step together. And the whole journey always starts with just one step. Because systems are loud, because symptoms are loud and systems are quiet. And bringing some joy and playfulness in lets us hear them. And I am open to any questions that you might have of, or how this can be used, or just about anything. And I know that I am 3 minutes over, Ken, so I apologize. I talk quite fast enough.
Actually, you know what? Theoretically, you have until 8:15.
Oh,
So yeah, if you want to dance some more, we're up for it. If not, that's cool too.
yeah, no, I totally can. What questions do you have?
Yeah.
Have you had an example where the joy part you were trying to explain to somebody, but the project or the team or the organization was so demoralized, all you did was puzzle people and shall we say, add to the distrust? So to go back to your example before, the Dan person with the jacket seems like not only a micromanager, but a guy with no ears and kind of listening tone deaf to people who did actually speak to him. So I wondered if I was thinking about
Yeah.
your 6 prior examples. Uh, they seem to represent the idea of an organization searching to do things in a better way, but not necessarily having the idea of what better means.
Well, yeah, I think that is really common, right? We want something better. It can be hard to even imagine what the world would be like if it was different, especially when we've had all of this like merry-go-round of issues. So I don't often start with telling them that it's joyful or it's playful, right? You match the language to them and their simulation, experiment, learning. Dan was actually a human who was super open. He was so incredibly shocked to see that he was holding all of these strings because he didn't think he was. His view of himself as a leader was that he was empowering his people, that his team was making decisions. It led to a lot of introspection for him. If you actually want to hear the whole story, if you go to Agile Alliance's website and transforming healthcare with business agility. Or you can look at my site. I've got a link to it. Was a paper that we ended up writing together at the end of the transformation and presented together at the big Agile conference. So These things work. Lots of times it can, take a little bit to get some folks to play. But I always say that if I can get the CTO of JP Morgan Chase to throw ping pong balls, you can get anybody to play a game. I mean, I won't say it was easy, but he did it. It took some work. Thank you, Ken. Great Google skills.
You betcha.
So you can get anybody to play. It's just a matter of getting it set up and building some psychological safety to get there. And there are a ton of games. I'll actually just flip through. I already did my pitch. If you're looking for work, know somebody who's looking for work, please connect with me on LinkedIn. We are hiring. Also, we're 200,000 people, so we're hiring for lots of things beyond just my personal, I need transformation coaches and agile coaches. But I did promise my boss that if I took these couple hours off this afternoon, that I would pitch you all on come join our wonderful band of humans across the world. But I run agiletoybox.com, tons of games, lots of different things, lots of different situations. If you've got something that you're like, do you have an exercise that will help with ABC? I'm happy to answer questions about that. There is a QR code here that if you scan it, you can get these slides, though I am going to fix the slides. Thank you very much for your feedback, and thank you for being my guinea pigs in this for the first time. And there's also the handout, which will give you all of the directions. Miriam.
Yes, I actually using my phone, so I'm not able to get the QR code. Is there another way I'll be able to access it?
Absolutely. I will grab the link and put it in for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Who else has questions or feedback for Emilia?
The QR code works very nicely.
Good. I also dropped the link so you can get it. There's some downloadable PDFs, or you can look at it there.
It's amazing to me how sometimes just how simple something can be. Ball of yarn.
A ball of yarn.
I love
all
it.
it takes. And it's very powerful when you do it in person. I have done it on Miro, Mural, Lucid Spark. It works. It's not as deep as most things. I've obviously used the paper one in individual coaching with people to kind of examine their systems. Obviously, you're going to miss a lot there because it's just one person's opinion and view of the system. But it is very useful for people to come up with their own view and what they see and articulate it.
Are there any other great system revealing games that you can recommend?
Yeah, so there's one. This is my game. It is not my game. Rumor has it was created by Ken Schwaber. It is called Bosses and Workers. It is one of my favorites. And it is essentially one group of humans is the bosses, the other group of humans is the workers. Goes through 2 rounds. The first round, the bosses are telling the workers exactly how to walk around their square. And the goal is to take as many steps as possible without running into anyone. Unfortunately, that's not super effective. Round 2, the workers get to decide how they walk around. The workers count their own steps. The bosses just have to remove impediments. It's a fun and physical game for you because you want to also be an impediment to be removed. You get to do things like throw chairs in front of people, like slide chairs in front of people, hop in front of people and do this. And every time I run the game, the self-organized, the workers deciding how they're going to do the work, gets at least 2 or 3 times the number of steps as the manager group does. So it is always an aha moment, especially if you can do it with executives. Also, a bunch of dudes in ties is always funny to watch try and walk around a chair, walk around chairs and not, run into people. So there's a
That's
plus.
awesome.
And it's great for revealing like how, especially when you do the debrief of how does this like work?
Mm-hmm.
It's a really great conversations that come from it and reveal systems. It's one of my favorites. Lots of it. Miriam.
I'm curious, how do you I'm thinking here because it just slipped my mind what I was going to say. When do you decide to use the yarn exercise? What kind of scenarios are you facing?
So I think it's really good when you're starting any kind of transformation work. It works really well for helping people to see what's going on. I also use it when I've been working with a team for a while and noticing some patterns, like you notice people missing. What actually led me to developing the string game and playing it with that first group, my intent was to show, so that chair that you saw in it, that was one person who was always remote and they were never there. And so they would get kind of left out of conversations, or things would come to that person, but then never leave that person. And that was like what I thought I was going to help them see in that system. Because a lot of times as coaches, we have an idea what's going to happen with the game and something we want to kind of emphasize and have them get out of it. And I was wrong. And it revealed a lot more. And but yeah, that was, I guess that's also another thing for all of you who are doing this is like, be prepared to be wrong with what you thought was going to happen. Because serendipity, is pretty cool, particularly with these kinds of things. I also use it in my one-on-one leadership coaching to help people look at how they're interacting with others and how they're seeing their world. Particularly if they start talking about things like conflict or burnout. Sometimes, which is pretty interesting, particularly when working with Scrum Masters and Agile coaches, the feeling like you're missing a piece of the picture. You can start to reveal some of that stuff.
Part of
It's one I
me,
like a lot.
Emilia, in the yarn game, does everybody get a ball of yarn to start with? Or
One ball.
One ball, and you just pass it around. So
Yeah.
people hold on to the edge when it
Yeah,
gets
you have your string. Person who starts has their string. And I encourage you to actually have your circle small enough that you can actually throw it. There is something about that especially as the building and a little bit of silly relaxation will happen with that, right? Because the act of throwing creates just a little bit of joy in and of itself, that lets you be a little more honest about who you're actually talking to, right? It takes away, sometimes the initial lines will be, people passing it to the person who they're supposed to, right? Once you start kind of tossing it and who's next and who's next and who's next, it gets a little more honest. So as a coach running this game, you want to pay attention to some of the orders too.
You
And
mean
what
the order
happens.
of who's getting the ball of yarn?
Well, and your later things can be really revealing.
So
watch the feeling that starts happening with that relationship system and how people are interacting.
So this project I'm working on for this little business I was mentioning, I'm going to actually try this. May I call it Emilia's game?
I just call it the string game, but I suppose.
Okay. Thank you.
Like I said, I made it to prove that somebody who wasn't in the room was getting left out. It just turned out to be a lot more than that. And I've used it with a lot of teams since then.
So do you do the string game later after whatever lessons learned and I don't know, adaptation transformations or whatever the organization actually ends up doing to make changes so there's less burnout and more joyfulness at work?
Yeah,
Do you do that
sometimes.
again?
I've used it more than once. With that team, with Dan, and the provider experience team, we did it with that initial executive team. And we did a lot of work with that team. They were the executive action team, actually. And once they got pretty well set up, we did it again later with that team and sort of some of the next level leadership folks, bringing in more business people. And then that was sort of a different dynamic and a different system. And we did it a couple times. I don't think we ever did it with the exact same group of people really again, but you could see the changes that had happened between them when they were really intentional about the work. It's one of the things that is, I prefer being an FTE to being a consultant because you get to see what happens after. In my role at Visco, we did it a couple times, and there definitely was growth. The problem is when we did it after the first time, people kind of knew the game. Right.
What?
And I think we didn't get as honest answers. Just because that, in that case, I was an FTE, so I saw what was going on. I was sitting in the executive team meetings when I saw the dysfunction or the things that would be said in the EPDM meeting, but not in the full executive, EPDM being engineering, product, and design. That wouldn't necessarily be with the full team. So they got a little less honest, but it was also an organization with pretty low psychological safety. So that probably had something to do with it.
They gamed the game.
Because they knew what the answer was to be good leaders.
Yeah.
So another thing to watch out for.
I've had this experience with a large complex organization that dealt with healthcare, and we didn't use actual string, but we used words and little sketches on whiteboards and things to illustrate lists of basically complaints.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting to see how senior management didn't understand because middle management wasn't telling them. And so those of us at the worker level were waiting quietly to see what would happen to all these great improvements. And the work environment got even more toxic.
It happened. I would say that you probably had some symptoms there that didn't get to the root cause of the problem.
In the workers and bosses thing, where we could, if we could have switched, I have the feeling the workers would have been able to remedy a lot of the pain and burnout and I guess exasperation just by showing middle management what was missing. But we were not given the opportunity.
Yeah. And I think that's one of those when you see the same thing happening over and over and over again. It's a sign. What else? I love talking to other agile humans. I spend a good portion of my day talking to various people.
With the yarn,
yeah.
With the yarn, I guess any of the exercises, visually it helps, just like what you explained, helps the system reveal, the shadows, right?
Yeah.
Like the hidden shadows that are not visible.
Exactly.
It's very empowering.
Yeah. And the thing is, you can't fix something that you can't see.
1000%. Yeah.
I noticed as you scrolled by that you have the card game Flux
Yes.
as one of the games, which actually is one of my favorite card games. It is total chaos.
It
But
is beautiful to introduce to people who are about ready to go through transformation. Because that everything feels like it's changing around you.
mhm,
That is how people feel as you're going through a major transformation of any kind, right? And one, it can help if you play it with leaders, it can help them empathize with what their people are going to go through, because the folks don't get to choose how their goals are changing or what's going on or why the rules changed right now. So it can create a really good, creating that space and then start having conversations about how do we make people feel better about this change and hold that. And what might we do about it?
Yeah.
It's also really beautiful for you as a coach to watch how the people you're working with react to the changes in the game. Because that reveals a lot about how do they really feel about change. Not how they say they feel about change, right? What do they really, really think about it?
That's cool.
A joke I had with my friend Paul, who's also an agile coach. We were together on the day the world shut down, and we're having a conversation before that. I said, well, I guess this is a little bit of the world calling us on how much do you really like change? All of us agile coaches talk about how much we love change, how excited we are about change. But the universe had a little bit of a moment for us of how you really feel about that. Still love it? The answer was yes for some people and no for others. But
Or yes to parts and no to other parts.
Yeah.
Might be the other.
I absolutely loved the opportunity to rethink ways that we work and how I can work from my house versus flying all over the country. I did not love teaching kindergarten. Some change, yes, some change, no.
Yeah.
Teaching kindergarten is a lot of work and
Yes, it is.
responsibility.
Especially when added to having a real job. But it was hard. It was hard.
Teaching kindergarten is also a real job.
Oh, yes. No, I mean, so we had our wonderful teachers on Zoom, but trying to also teach your child, because in kindergarten, they don't sit on Zoom all day the way, my second grader, she sat on Zoom. Our kindergarten teachers were kind of like, here's your materials. Good luck. They held a lot of empathy for us parents. In no way was I saying kindergarten is not a real job.
Well, let's hope we never have to do that again.
Yeah. I can 100% say after the COVID bit, teachers should make a lot more than they do. It's not easy. I knew that ahead of time, but I will take a room of 25 grumpy executives learning Scrum over one kindergartner. And I love her dearly. I gave birth to her, but what else?
Yeah, who else has questions or thoughts?
I'm reminded of a game that I've learned but haven't had the chance to play very often because it's really hard to do. I haven't figured out a way to do it virtually. It's a good in-person game, but it's called the categories game. And brief description. Okay, this round is about fruit, and I say blueberry, and I point to Emilia, and Emilia says apple and points to Peretz, and Peretz says pear and points to Ken, and Ken says strawberry and points to me. Okay, so and you start by having your hands up, and you go around like that. So you just repeat that same round: blueberry, apple, pear, strawberry, whatever. You play that. Okay, round two, we're going to play cars or something like that. Okay, Buick, whatever. You go around again. Round three, we're going to do colors, whatever it is. You keep doing that. And now you start trying to do them together. So you're trying to remember these patterns and handing them off from person to person. Of course, the thing that happens is, well, I'm so busy watching for Blueberry to arrive that I don't see Buick coming. And then, of course, the game comes to a halt fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Until you start taking responsibility for the handoff. So I keep saying Blueberry until I see Emilia acknowledge that she got Blueberry, and then whoever's trying to hand me Buick, I can actually take that one. So the fun lesson in that is, how do we take responsibility and handoff? How often do we just toss something to somebody and we don't actually know whether it landed?
Like they caught it.
Yeah. Did you see that they caught it?
It's also really good for teaching context switching and whip.
Cool. So you have a version of that game.
I think it's King Lizard is the version. Yeah.
Cool.
Except it's noises and motions, but same concept.
Same kind of thing. All right. Awesome.
We do something similar at the improv on stage. Where we've got different types of balls. We've got like a bouncy ball, a baseball, a volleyball, a beach ball. One of the things you can do is acknowledge that you've received the ball. So for instance, if I say, I've got blue ball, point to you, blue ball. You say, thank you, blue ball. So that way you get the acknowledging.
Yeah.
Yep. And then you pass the next, do the same thing again. Yep. I haven't thought about that. I should pull some improv games in at some point.
Yes. Improv games work wonderfully with teams.
Yeah.
I love Countdown just starting a daily scrum. Because it gets everybody listening to each other and paying attention. If you can pay attention to each other just so you can count together, then you're actually paying attention to what each other is working on instead of zoning out and going to another place.
Is that the one where you do the everybody has to count to 10, but you can't be overstepping each other? Or is it something else?
Yeah, I liked the same game.
Okay.
I like to do it backwards from a number.
Okay.
Just because it gets to be too easy if it's just 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
But it's a lot harder to go 20, 19, 18, 17.
And then for those of you who don't know, if anybody says this, if two people say that, or more people say the same number at the same time, you start again.
Yeah. So you're building that awareness of what everybody else is doing. Yeah, which is such a strong improv skill. Argentine tango as a dance. Somebody said, part of what you're paying attention to is you taking care of everybody on the dance floor, not just yourself and your partner.
Yes.
So there's part of that in there too. That this awareness plus this awareness.
Okay. Any last questions or before we wrap up?
Just reach out, connect with me. If you have any feedback, I find feedback to be a gift. Again, you were the very first people to have this presentation. Thank you for being my testers.
Thank you for being willing to do it. When you said you had something new, I was like, oh, we want to jump on that.
Yeah, it's brand new.
Let's be the first to market on this,
Too fun.
This was, I personally feel this was awesome. Thank you, Amelia. Like this is going to be something great to bring out to, teams and um, yeah, across multiple different levels in an organization. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yep.
Works with brand new baby analysts all the way up through C-suite. So
C-suites. Yep. All right, so a couple more things before we wrap up. Our next session is on May 27th at 6:30. We've got a lean coffee that we're doing. And September, what we're going to end up doing in the fall, maybe sooner in the summer, is we're going to end up shifting the dates that we normally do things. We've used to do them the last Wednesday of the month, but we're going to do a switch because there's a lot of other organizations that have conflicting meetings. So we're going to try and experiment to change the meeting date. And in mid-September, ideally, we've got Ronica Roth, who's going to return as a speaker. We've had her here before. Just going to talk to us about her newly published book, Practice Makes Culture, which is coming out in August. So again, you have an opportunity in the meetup group to be on the cutting edge of new things in September as well. So Amelia, thank you so much for the presentation. Andrew Peretz and others who engaged in questions and answers, and Miriam, thank you for engaging with those questions and answers. Everybody that I missed as well, we appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you in a future event. Thank you all and be well. Have a great evening.
Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
well,
Yep.
Thank you.